Hello, 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 ladies and gentlemen. We are here today. And yes, we still have the old guitar in the background. Hold on, let's see. Guitar in the background. And man, oh man, hasn't, or have we had some conversations today? Have we had some conversations today? Hold on, the mic's a little too loud. There we go. That's not blowing your eardrums now, is it? That is not blowing your eardrums at all. Hold on. Let's get it a little bit louder. I should have tested this before we got it up. My messenger is still blowing up with responses. We do have a little insider information on this whole RTJ situation. And there's a lot of things that are developing. Obviously, tonight, if you have not mark this on your calendars, tonight is the FloRacing night in America. It is going to be coming on here very soon. I believe it is within an hour. There will be hot laps on the track. So be sure to stay tuned for that event. Hold on, let me get that up here. So we're not planning on being here 3 hours. Last night was just insane. Last night was pretty crazy. But tonight, Castro FloRacing night at Lincoln Speedway. Schedule person, more information here. And let's see, the points fund. Obviously, Ricky Thornton Jr., the points leader of the series. But here are the times. They are central. Gates open at 3. Grandstands at 4. 5:30 is the driver's meeting, so here in half an hour. And then 6 p.m. is hot laps. To follow is racing. Super late model qualifying. And it looks like they also have the UMP modifieds on the schedule as well. So, pretty good race, pretty good lineup. 20,000 to win in the late model division, 2,000 to win in the modifieds, and that's really not a bad payout at all. Grandstand tickets a little pricey, but that's fine. We need to start being comfortable paying a decent amount of money to get into these dirt track races, especially if we want to pay more. Grandstand tickets are $40, 12 and up, 11 and under are 10. Pit pass is $45. Of course, they got a little interesting bit of a tire situation, but obviously there's the headline that everybody's been seeing. Obviously, Logan Seavey impresses in long-awaited dirt late model debut. I don't know if y'all saw that. That was at some track down there in Arkansas with the Hell Tour. But I know Logan Seavey is going to shine in whatever he gets into. I mean, this is another Ricky Thornton Jr. level-esque, Kyle Larson level-esque driver. Just didn't have the opportunities of a Larson. And did the same things. So, throw him in the same category as a Kofoid and a Ricky Thornton and a Larson. So he's always going to impress. But obviously this RTJ situation has definitely shined out. I'm not sure. Hold on, let's see this. Is Seavey supposed to be here tonight? Is he supposed to race tonight? Was there anything in here that says he's going to be on the track tonight? I'm not sure. Yes, actually he is racing tonight. So, interestingly enough, no wonder that caught my eye. There is some cool things to obviously look forward to outside of this whole RTJ situation. We're going to get into that. But yes, Logan Seavey is scheduled to race tonight at Lincoln Speedway. And it looks like July 15th at Eagle, Lucas Oil Race, and July 16th at Shelby County. So Logan Seavey, I'm telling y'all, keep an eye out for this guy. He's going to be impressive, especially when you get him on a lot of these tracks. He's a guy, midgets, Silver Crown cars. I always say if you take a late model guy and want to put him into dirt racing, I think a perfect car for a late model guy in dirt racing would be the Silver Crown car. It sounds crazy. And honestly, big block modified guys, if y'all went Silver Crown racing, y'all would have a really big advantage because y'all's cars and Silver Crown cars are almost the exact same things. So don't be surprised if Logan Seavey is impressive tonight. But also happening here tonight is obviously this situation you have on your screen with the 5S. And this was the post that everybody started seeing on their social medias. Hold on, let me get this a little bit smaller so everybody can see the actual text. Hold on, we gotta do it again. Let's see here. So everybody can see the actual text. Tonight we are racing Steve Sheppard's 5S car at typo car for the Castro FloRacing Night in America event at Lincoln Speedway. Ricky is at the Sheppard Racing compound right now. This was 2 hours ago, getting his Ultra Shield Racing Products LLC and Sharps Advantage Safety Products LLC seat bolted in. The Sheppard family offered up this ride within minutes of calling to tell them what was going on simply as friends. Their generosity and willingness to get this car ready in less than 24 hours will never be forgotten. They are incredible people, and I hope someday we can repay the favor. Hope for some good runs for Ricky and Brandon both tonight. Now, obviously, as listed, the Stevie Sheppard 5S car, but obviously, once again, in the whole Sheppard compound down there. So this is a very interesting thing. Very interesting thing to contemplate, futuristically, what could happen here. And honestly, it's going to be very interesting to see how Ricky Thornton Jr. does perform tonight. I mean, somebody made a text to me, what's Ricky done outside of that SSI car? Obviously, he didn't really have a lot of experience outside in the late model world prior to that SSI partnership, but he was fast right out of the get-go in other equipment. I know I mentioned last night he's only really been in I believe, a Black Diamond, and then they went to Longhorns with Ricky. So, but it did or didn't take a long time for him to adjust and to get fast and to be quick. So, obviously a different camp, but still Longhorn chassis, and the factory Longhorn team being associated will not hurt this situation at all. And that's where my speculation, I know a lot of people are speculating where RTJ is going to go. And one of the more so dream kind of sensical scenarios that I saw going around today, I had in private conversations as well, is the idea of Longhorn starting another team in the Lucas Oil Series, a factory. So obviously factory Longhorn, if you study factory teams out there in the world, they want to have a factory team representative in the major series of the industry. AMA, motocross, supercross, flat tracks, that's where you hear factory. Also, I believe in the, not motocross, but rally cross divisions, they have their factory teams. And in World Rally, they have their factory teams. And obviously, Brandon Sheppard has the Longhorn factory team, but in the World of Outlaw late model series, technically, there's not a factory representation, technically, in the Lucas Oil Series. I mean, obviously, it used to be Tim McCready in the 39 was a Lucas driver, but then when this switching situation happened, you got Brandon Sheppard over there in the World of Outlaws. So, it would make sense to have a factory team in Lucas Oil. And if you're trying to be big time, like it looks, and Longhorn's obviously, selling well. If you're trying to be big time and have a factory team, you have Brandon Sheppard on the World Outlaw side, and it sounds like a very good, smart, kind of laying in the basket choice to have a factory team in the Lucas Oil Series with Ricky Thornton Jr. That sounds very all, things aligning perfectly. It sounds like that would be like a perfect dream scenario. Now, is that going to happen? I don't know. Obviously, this pairing right here, working together tonight. Obviously, when you have these big shows, you have the factory teams, 1 and 2, they're sitting. But throughout the year, when it's Lucas Oil, World of Outlaws racing on the same weekend, you had that situation this last weekend, for instance. World of Outlaws was up at Deer Creek. Lucas Oil was down here in Ohio and stuff. So it would be a situation that if Longhorn wants to do that, you have a possibility now to get one of the best race car drivers in the country leading the points already, and that would definitely go a long, long way. Now, obviously, there's a driver's championship and a team championship. I don't know how that would play out for technically any team that's coming in to get Ricky Thornton Jr. You think about it, it's like, okay, so the team owners' points of SSI Motorsports obviously would carry on with whoever they put into the car. And then I guess if it's not an existing team that comes up and picks up Ricky Thornton, they're just kind of behind the eight ball in the ownership standings. For instance, in this scenario, if Longhorn was going to start a factory team for Lucas Oil. So it is an interesting situation, but the sad part is you got one of the best race car drivers in the industry right now without a ride. Now, I know this video says insider information, and then I will say I do have some very credible inside information on what happened with this situation with SSI and RTJ. Now, believe it or not, as much as I sit here and run my mouth, I know a lot about a lot of things, and if I really got on here and said everything that I told people in conversation I wouldn't say, that first of all, it's unjust, it's unfair, that's not being correct, a correct way to treat people. I don't think personally. That's not how you treat people. If somebody wants to tell you some information, but please, Chaz, don't say it. We don't want no one to know. Then I have to respect that. I have to honor that handshaking agreement. But I will say, one of the quotes in this conversation that this person probably doesn't care if I say or not is, hold on, let me just let me bring it up because I don't want to get it wrong. Do not want to get it wrong. Let's see here. No, this is it right here. No fucking way would I have got rid of the best driver over something that small. So that's the quote. No fucking way would I have got rid of the best driver over something that small. And this is something that, and I it's not t-shirts, it's not this and that, all this behind the scenes conglomerate, crew chief disagree. There's nothing like that. It's not nothing like that. It's something completely it is very small why this happened, which leads people to think or believe that whoever's coming into the car played a bigger factor than whatever caused that partnership with RTJ and SSI to split around because of the reasoning as to why it happened. Now, I'm not going to get into that, but I'll tell you what, as far as getting into it, and this is something that I'm getting frustrated with, honestly, the people involved in the sport. Because there seems to be this unsensical expectation, this fantasy land that you people live in, I guess, behind your big money houses and all this. You just think, I don't know, man, a lot of these people are successful in their own business world, and in their own business world, when you're the king and you're paying all the bills, and everybody kind of tells you what you want to hear, and if they don't, you fire them, you get rid of them, you send them off their own ways. But in the real world out here, in the dirt track world, for sure, there's this thing people do, and it's called think, and it's called speculate, and it's called projecting what could or could not happen. It's this thing that we got called a brain that actually makes us the smartest animal on the planet, which we can be the dumbest at the same time. But what I'm trying to say is when you come out with the biggest name in the damn sport, separating with a team that has had unknowingly success on the track and off, not all the way apparently, and you put that out there and just say mutually or parting ways with no information, you just grabbed, you just went up to the anthill and kicked it. You just grabbed the box of centipedes and shook it around, and now they're scattering everywhere. They're going to talk. And so when I say this, when this news comes out, and we all saw, like somebody said, we're going to get into it, for the last, 10 or 12 hours, a little longer than that, ever since this news dropped, with this ending sentence of parting ways, with this whole scenario I've explained, the world is not just going to sit there and not think and not speculate and not guess and not use this mind that makes them the most dominant animal on the planet. They're going to do that. Like, that's what's going to happen. So this is why I say frustrated with the sport. There's ways to handle this scenario where you don't have to just be the victim and play or cry victim when people go out there and say all this stuff and you're like, it's none of their business. They don't need to know what happened. Oh my God. So little short man thinking is what that is. So let me show you what I wrote. There's ways to handle this. And I don't know who's running PR for these people or doesn't understand or look to successful organizations that have way worse splits and issues and exchanging a player. I don't know why y'all don't pay attention to these people and learn how professionals do this to where you don't have to go out there and say it's none of their business and all this psychoticness. Like, you're asking for this. But anyways, here's the post that I put. And once again, I started off by saying this needs to be said. I said this needs to be said for future partnerships and decisions. I put in parentheses, friendly PR suggestion. I encourage you to learn from how the pros do it. I see how people are saying, no need for details. This is between RTJ and SSI. Okay, so that sounds great, but the answer is no. Not when it's a sport that has media and fans. This isn't a private relationship. It is on a grand stage with multiple avenues of involvement. And this is how I'm trying to offer a solution here. We've seen this in other sports when a big star leaves a team. ESPN releases how said player and GM blah, blah, blah has personal disagreements or whatever, some form of reasoning behind the split. There is some form of details as to why a decision was made, not just by. And here's the point. Once again, y'all, this is called damage control. They do that because they know they need to control the perception of what happened. So the fans and media don't run with speculation on the reasoning for said decision. This is referred to as damage control. It is that simple. So when this goes awry and maybe let's just say they want to just part mutually and everybody's great and grand, or say it's something horrible and destructive, but y'all want to do it publicly to where it's not going to, cause this big giant question mark that every freaking message and conversation and video has been trying to answer for the last day. And maybe they wanted this. Maybe this is, once again, I talked about that too. Maybe this is the strings being pulled for the speculation and the all of tonight's show. Maybe there's money in here moving that we don't even know about. That's what they do in the real politics. But regardless, this is a situation where you have to understand you're dealing with people. This isn't private. This isn't you and your, relationship or you and a friend. This is something that is like out there. And there's fans involved. There's people involved. They're going to have opinions. And let's just, like I said, even if it's bad, or not that bad, I'm sure sometimes when we hear said player and GM blah, blah, blah has personal disagreements, I'm sure it could be something where like the player banged the GM's girlfriend or something, and they don't want to say that. So they just say there was a personal disagreement, but just from them saying personal disagreement, at least it gives some reasoning to the decision, and the people can just take it and say, oh, well, maybe they didn't like how they was playing or something like, but that's also the issue here is the big question mark is, you got the best player in the game getting released from a team that, wasn't necessarily, were they Davenport level? I mean, were they this, were they that level? No. I mean, it built up to this point with Ricky Thornton Jr. Obviously, they're doing great things now. Obviously, crew chief's playing a factor in that, but it is hard to see one of the best players get let go. That's probably the biggest question mark. And for that big question mark, you have to provide some kind of big reasoning to the public, or they're going to run crazy with it. Whatever reasoning it is small and it's little. And from my source, it's extremely small. I don't know why. I'm not going to break laws and be mean and tell what it is. But it's so small, and I think potentially it'll come out eventually. But you have to provide some form, like I said, personal disagreements. Or you're going to have a damn Antonio Brown situation one day, you know, where he's just losing it, throwing stuff and running in the damn locker room. But it just needs, like I said, some form of damage control needs to be used here. And when you tell people it's none of their business, this is between RTJ and SNI. Okay, it is, but you're on a stage. You're on a stage. Now, there's plenty of comments in here, and there's plenty of rebuttal. We'll put it over here to the YouTube chat because I want to read some personal messages that actually do play somewhat of a factor here, I think, in this situation. Will anyone here know the loudmouth who got taken a hold for calling Logan Wagner's grandmother and aunt every word in the book after his win at Port Saturday? Oh, wow. They're next level. Maybe Hailie Deegan will end up in a late model since she got fired. That would be a good idea. I said it on my show yesterday. Getting Hailie Deegan to a dirt late model would definitely promote the sport. I don't think that's a bad idea at all. And maybe she'll be good. Who knows? But regardless, you know, this has to do with fans in a way. Y'all are not, you know, really understanding, I think, and I speak of the politicals of the racing industry and the racing world a lot. And you know, I talk about the sponsors and the car owners and the streaming companies and the track promoters. They're just like in this ruling class area. And yes, there's levels to that. Like there's a lot of examples where, you know, you have the car owner that is the sponsor and they kind of run the entire operation. And, you know, you would consider that person kind of at the top of the echelon, a car owner. Maybe they got a track. They're like the kings of the ruling class. And then you got car owners who are dependent on sponsorships. And in that scenario, the sponsorship is kind of the ruler over the car. And then, you know, the driver is below everyone in this situation. And that's the person with the strings. And that's the person with the collar on what they can or cannot say. That's why we get a lot of vanillas. And this whole system, though, I would almost put the track promoters like below everyone in that list at the end of the day, unless they own a track and are in with the car and all that stuff. But regardless, in the system, it is successful. It makes money. It survives. They all survive in this ruling class, just like in the real world. The politics, the governing bodies, all these things survive because of the worker class. The worker class goes out here in the racing world and pays all the bills, buys all the streams, buys all the tickets, goes and actually pays for it. And sometimes these people within the ruling class, the drivers, the owners, the sponsors, track promoters, series, streamings, all these people, they forget, just like in the real political world, they forget that the working class actually is the battery to the machine. And you know, that's probably a big disconnection for some. Some it's not. There's some people who really pay attention to that worker, that battery that makes it work. They pay attention to it and they're successful. But then there's a lot that don't. And when you're addressing or putting news out like this, you have to attune to that worker class. I actually got an interesting message from somebody in that worker class scenario. And they were talking about a bunch of stuff in this situation as a fan and some other stuff too. But, and they were more so alluding to people having an opinion, speculating, trying to put an answer to this big ending of a sentence of "we just parted ways," ? With the best driver in the industry. And this person said, scroll down Flow and Dirt on Dirt's timeline and see how many posts have been made in the last 10 hours about RTJ. This is back to the expectations of these fans. This isn't their business, blah, 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 blah. This is personal. He continues, he says, people that expect everyone to tape themselves to a wall are out of touch. That's what I'm trying to allude here. It's everybody's business because it is a public function. We teach our kids to look up to these people. We buy their shirts. We travel 10 to 12 hours sometimes just to watch them drive in circles on a dirt oval. Race fans do feel invested And it is ignorant to think they don't. They're always going to have questions. The way I feel is if you don't need our opinion, then you don't need our money either. Fund it yourself or go race a street stock where nobody gives a this guy says, I just drove 1,000 miles to watch a local super late model race, spent $350 to do it, and didn't even get a F&T shirt. So, I mean, and this example he's talking about is the example of a bunch of these race fans who when you supply them shit, let's just say the truth, when you supply them a shit excuse to why one of the biggest drivers in the world, and I'm not blaming Ricky here, I think once again the callers, the ruling class, the drivers are right there with the track promoters. That's probably the drivers and the track promoters need to start working together a little bit more. When you provide those people, that working class that you just think you're so much better than, a shit ass or no reason really, just to part ways. And then your battery, your supply fund, your engine to this damn racing world asks questions, speculates, says things, thinks of things, what to say, what to do, you know? And then let's just slide me in media, although all of our shows are labeled as comedies. Nothing is true here. We're 100% joke. You know, media is right below all of them, and that's why it's a trickle-down effect of appeasement, and that's why you don't see big corporates on me, because I speak up to the ruling class and try to speak for the people. So that money ain't going to trickle down to me. That's why I have to get the worker class to sponsor the shows. That's why I got regular people's names on my shit, because I speak against the ruling class of this dirt racing industry. That's why when I say they don't like me, I'm talking about that class. So when you supply an empty-ended sentence with no reasoning and you don't have no damage control, I'm teaching them, how are you saying it's none of their business? How are you acting this way? You did it. You set it up for them to, you kicked the ant pile over. Whatever you want to call it. You did it yourself. You caused this. You know, and obviously we ain't seen people say we're tired of hearing everyone just talk. But those people who say we're tired of hearing everyone just talk, you're too stuck up there in that ruling class to actually understand how this shit operates. And that happens in the real politics all the time. So I understand, sir. I understand why you feel that way, but that's because you're, like the guy messaged, you're not in touch. You're disconnected from the reality of the situation. This way of thinking that it's none of their business is going to get people to just not talk about it is fantasy. It is fantasy. Period. And the media should be talking about it more, but trickle-down effect. They're on the plateau and the dollars shake down and follow. So they're scared. Because, you know, people in media understand how the ruling class operates in the racing world, and they're scared, and that's why, and the drivers do, and the crew, everybody knows how this operates. Fans, some, the smart ones do too. They see how it goes round and round. So that's why you have a lot of people always on eggshells and not saying what they think or feel or analyzing or thinking, because they're not thinking about thinking. They're thinking about how to make more money. That's why I say money is the new whip. It keeps everybody in order. Massa, I'll do whatever you told me. Whatever you tell me. Just give me the money. Just give me the money. It's unbelievable how much power we allow it to have. But, I mean, the effects, they're very relatively the same. Alex with the comment here. Flo should sign RTJ to a contract and get him in all kinds of rides to bolster the ratings. RTJ equals money. I still think RTJ wants to run the Lucas Oil Series the rest of the year. He's points leader and everything. Why wouldn't you want that? The factory team would be awesome, I personally think. I feel like, and let me tell you right now, I've heard from several people, there has been There. What you're talking about there, Alex, is true. We saw Barry Braun put a post up the other day, or last night, I believe it was, which is the XR runner of all things over there in the XR world, the kingpin up there. He was talking about RTJ should just go to stock cars. I hear there's opportunities for RTJ to be in a sprint car potentially, winged. I still suggest a Silver Crown ride would be better. Obviously he has his micros, but this could be, and it's funny, we said last night in the show, we've never seen the best driver in the world lose a ride in NASCAR, F1, or anything, and then I joked and said, and it's not a joke, it's true, except Kyle Larson when he said the N-word. And could this, in the reality of the situation, that was like the best thing that had ever, as far as luckiness, and I said it at the time when it happened, I said it was planned, but that was the luckiest thing that ever happened for Kyle Larson, because his talent was trapped in a 42 Chip Ganassi ride that was junk. And obviously this is not a junk ride, but that situation allowed him to go and race all these different cars, do all these different things, drive all these different vehicles, have the freedom to really expand his talent and show it off in more than just the Cup car and 5 or 6 winged races in the Chili Bowl a year. So this could be, I don't know if he's willing to jump, because you got to make a hell of a jump if you do this. This could be the similar scenario for RTJ. Like, imagine how many RTJ shirts, how many eyes would tune in. And this is back to, the promoters and the drivers working together against that fucking ruling class. How how much buzz there would be, streams purchased. You don't have to always work with Flow and Dirt Vision. There's a lot of local, regional streamers out there that are actually good people. They're down here in the mix of the media and the ruling class, and most of them stay their mouth shut, obviously. But I'm just saying, imagine how much money you could make in this scenario if you got RTJ in a big block modified next week, or you got RTJ running, stock car, next week, or RTJ's running a USAC midget, or maybe here in a few weeks, RTJ's going to run Indiana Sprint Week. He's from Indiana, obviously. Now from Indiana. I had that issue that he's actually from Chandler. His shirts say Martinsville, Indiana. But imagine if RTJ, you saw the post tomorrow, will be at Indiana Sprint Week the entire week. I think that's what, two weeks from now? Indiana Sprint Week, RTJ. How much buzz, how many people are tuning into that? How many t-shirts are going to sell? Heck, what if he goes to PA to run a winged sprint car or something? And then, of course, he could still jump into, just like Kyle did, still jump into the sprint car, but go run in now you're in a Silver Crown car on the Springfield Mile or something. I don't know. I'm just saying. That's a sellable commodity right now. You could use RTJ with this freedom element to pull off some pretty big deals to where he don't even have to win the damn race to make a living. He just has to show up, and his presence is going to bring that eye onto you, because this is the biggest news out there, just like Larson and the N-word, biggest news out there in the racing world right now, and dirt racing for sure. And whatever happens after this, people are going to be paying attention. Where's RTJ going to go? Obviously, the conservative route is to stay in a late model, is to just try to, find some good new situation to go to and finish the year out, leading points here, leading points there. Heck, if the Lucas Oil deal is threatened, you can't find that scenario. Find a team that'll put you on for the FloRacing Castro Night in America, which is about to have hot laps here in about 30 minutes. That's your championship you're focused on now. Go run every car you want to in the meantime. Oh, yeah, we'll see you at World 100. We'll probably see you at Silver Dollar Nationals in a few weeks. These bigger market. Oh, you can go run the big World Outlaw shows now, too. You ain't just locked down to Lucas. We'll have a car or something. We'll roll a second one out. There'll be that situation out there. That will be. I mean, obviously, I would like to see a factory Longhorn team car for Ricky Thornton Jr. in the Lucas Series, and you'll have your World Outlaw factory ride with Sheppard and Lucas Oil factory ride with RTJ. That sounds like a good idea. But sometimes dollars and cents don't add up. Kenny Wallace was talking about the expense was potentially a big reasoning for this failure. Obviously, from the phone calls I've had with some people connected, that's not the case, though. That's not the case. But it could have been. Maybe the real reasoning isn't the real reasoning and there's, 3D chess going on. From my understanding, like I said, no way in hell that a regular person would have got rid of the best driver in the world for the actual reason that happened. I'm not disclosing that. I said I wouldn't, and I'm not going to, but this comment right here, RTJ to a contract and get him to all kinds of rides to bolster the ratings. If Flo was to do that, say Flo signs RTJ to a big contract, hey, you're going to go run this race and that race. And yeah, our Lucas Oil ratings, they're going to be high, but this week, man, we want you to go run a short track Super Series big block modified, all right? Boost the ratings there. Oh, hey, Paul Silva's going to roll out a second car or that Lincoln Abe's guy or whatever. Instead of Kevin Newton driving the 16T at high limits, you're going to jump in there and run it this week. But it would all be FloRacing broadcast. So that's how that would technically work. Sounds like a really good idea, personally. It does sound like an idea. And this is how other streaming industries this is how broadcast companies work. Broadcast companies will sign agreements with actors and directors to make content kind of similar to like Apple, similar to Amazon Prime, similar to Netflix, similar to Pluto, all these other Peacock. They'll sign directors, they'll sign actors to exclusively make content on this broadcast company's platform. And they're using that actor or that director to draw an audience to their platform to watch their content and make money on the advertisement revenues and the ratings overall. The higher the ratings, the more you can get for advertising, which that's how it's supposed to work. That's how technically it's all supposed to work. Streaming is a little bit different, obviously, with the apps and everything because you're having to pay for it. Jimmy says RTJ in a big block would be awesome. I think it would be. I think Silver Crown car would be even more awesome. Steve Arpin is very smart. He'll do what he can to keep Ricky in a Longhorn. I think the Longhorn factory team, man. I think the Longhorn factory team for Lucas Oil would be the smart idea because if you're a factory team, you should have a representative in both of these national series right now. And the best damn driver who happens to be the points leader just became available. If you were ever going to start a Lucas Oil factory Longhorn team, now's the time. And you might have to do it to save the biggest driver in the world because a lot of people are asking. There's not a lot of options. I speculated last night. I thought maybe Todd Cooney could put something together. I know Todd Cooney, very big fan of Ricky Thornton Jr. He's drove for him previously, back before he became so national in the Iowa racing scene area. Obviously, Billy Moyer just junked a race car for Todd Cooney, Cooney Motorsports at Deer Creek. Billy Moyer probably needs to take some time off, so that might be the perfect timing as well for that secondary national style racing team that Cooney pulls out every now and then to potentially just shift over to RTJ. Take it over, guy. Go run with it. Obviously, I don't believe that's a Longhorn. That's those experimental Wells chassis or whatever, the Vipers or whatever the freaking name is called. So I don't know. If you're Longhorn, you definitely want to keep that personally. T-Carp would probably hook him up with a brand new Kryptonite. I don't know if that would work. I do feel like Longhorn is going to be the best situation for him, but I still think Ricky Thornton Jr. is one of the best damn drivers in the country. But setups, and this is why RTJ was going to be successful from the beginning, because he's a driver crew chief. He knows these cars. He sets his own cars up. He threw his own damn modified on a flatbed and went and won his ass to where he's at today. And I think Ricky Thornton Jr. really dialed in that Longhorn. And the crew chief there, obviously, respect. But really, I'm thinking RTJ collaborated with that crew chief and made what he had even better. So even though these guys can drive and RTJ is one of the best in the country, a lot of the late model guys can drive, and sometimes the difference between a guy finishing first and a guy finishing fourth is sometimes just that race car. You can't outdrive it better than the other guy. Sometimes there is situations where track position and everything can make a big difference, more so than how good you're driving the corner, but where you're placing your vehicle in the corner because of the air. So there is a lot of differences in the driver's seat. I'm not saying that, but I do feel like when you get into that top 4 or 5 in the national racing late model scene, that race car is what's making the difference in that finishing position most of the time. So I personally don't think RTJ going to anything outside but Longhorn, because he had such a lethal combination in his intelligence with that Longhorn chassis, and also shock brand matters here. From my understanding, your combo you need is the engine, chassis, shock combo is the king. You know, if you're a Penske guy, you could have and say you switch teams and they're Bilstein or Bilstein, whatever y'all want to call it over there in the late model world. It's night and day. You got to learn how to race on those a little differently than the Penske combo. So chassis, engine, shocks, how those are if you can keep that brand moving over, that brand combo is a big deal. But if you switch one of the three, go to a different engine, go to a different shock brand, go to a different chassis brand, it will significantly change your performance on the track. It's not going to be an easy transition. Although I think RTJ, once again, driver, crew chief, done it with a wrench in his hand from the day one. I think you could put him in something new or different and crazy, and yeah, he'd figure it out sooner or later. But it would still be, we see RTJ on this upward trajectory right now. And I feel like this situation, if he goes to something very similar, would be a little dip and then back up. But if he goes to something that's completely different, even a rocket, a kryptonite, even the Cooney situation would have to take some time. I feel like that trajectory would be a little bit more down before it goes back up. I still think that going back up for Ricky Thornton Jr. will happen no matter where he goes. But if you want this to be just a bump in the road or a damn, a ditch, it's going to depend on wherever he goes being the same or almost exactly the same chassis, engine, shock combo kind of program. So that's how I see it. How come sprint cars don't have chassis builder interest with the fans? They just don't. It's weird. I think you have motor, and this would be probably the bigger deal. A lot of people think in sprint car racing that it's motor builders, and it is, especially winged. I would say that that's the bigger difference there. Chassis, you can get the best sprint car chassis on the block. You can get the best roller. I sold them when Kyle Larson closed his doors. I actually helped sell Kyle Larson Racing, the old 2 car that Macedo used to race. So I was helping sell that team. I know it's crazy, but we had one of the best chassis, best rear ends, everything on there, rolling sprint car, World Outlaw ready sprint car, less the motor, carbon fiber, all of it, 22,000. Okay. Best roller sprint car in the world. If it was a Triple X, it'd probably be 16 or something, because it wasn't a Triple X. I believe they were Max or Eagles or whatever at the time. It wasn't the cheap brand. I'm just saying. Triple X is considered the cheap brand, even though they make good stuff. I love Triple X. They're really good. But the best rolling chassis in sprint car racing is around the 22 to 26. I guess you could go a little bit more premium. $22,000 to $26,000 market range. I believe the modified, just the UMP style modified, ain't those 40? Ain't like a badass MB custom 40,000 K and the badass. What's the Longhorns costing? What's that, 50? What's a Longhorn now? Rolling. Less motor. This is less motor, not motor and tranny. Sprint car racing rolling, less engine. With the rear end, with every component you need is 22. How much is a rolling chassis? I mean, I know y'all's transmissions. I don't know exactly the number. Let's see if we can see what a rolling chassis. And this is why I think chassis are so important, because they cost so much more. They are a very intricate thing. There's a lot more bars. There's a lot more weight distribution. A sprint car is kind of just straight up what you get. Let's see here. What is a late model chassis? If you know it in the chat, go ahead and put it. We are about to go. We are about to get out of here very soon. But obviously, FloRacing Night in America. We'll see how good Ricky Thornton Jr. does in this 5S. Is tonight going to be that? Is tonight going to be that? That and Bumpin' Bobbers just said, does RTJ show out tonight? It will be very interesting. There's brand new modified Vanderbilt roller is 42.5 and it's not even ready for motor and transmission. This is what I'm talking about. You know, but the big difference is when you get into sprint car motors, and this is where the difference between chassis and motors, when you get into sprint car motors, however, if you want a decent motor, we looked at it the other day, Speedway will sell you a 410 sprint car motor for $63,500. Now, if you want a competitive, and I'm not saying you can't be with that motor, but if you want a Charlie Garrett, if you want a Morrison, these exclusive motors, and this is what me and Brady Bacon's interview about wing to non-wing, he was talking about the good motors you need to run wing racing, you can't even get them. You know, there's some exclusivity in the elite motor builders. You know, when you hear the numbers on those, we're talking about 75 to 80. And then, of course, a sprint car motor, you have to refresh if you're running outlaw style every 8 to 12 races or 400 laps. Whereas a late model motor, I believe, lasts 20 to 25, I believe. And then the rebuilds, I believe, on the elite motors are anywhere from 14 to 17,000 in the sprint car industry. So that's where the money in the sprint car is technically located. It's all that horsepower under the hood. And when you put a wing on top of that sumbitch, you need it. The non-wing guys, they don't need it as bad. But when you put a wing on top of that sprint car, buddy, that needs a motor. That needs a hitter, a killer. That difference between that $63,000 Speedway motor and that $75,000 to $80,000 Charlie Garrett is the difference between first and eighth sometimes. Now, once again, I don't know the exact number on these exclusive motors. I could text, Cody from Gravel's team. They got the Morrison engine package. Very great. And he's a protege of the Garrett allegiance there. But those motors matter that damn much. But anyways, Lincoln is going to be interesting for sure. We was just talking about this, and it was a great question by Bumpin' Bobbers. How does RTJ show out tonight? Let's see. We got another question here by Church. Do you think the price difference is because sprints are easier to be a complete junk in a crash compared to full-size cars where you can reclip them? That's very potential, but I don't think you have as much material in the sprint car chassis as well. You don't have as much material in the construction as well. A late model is technically big in comparison, so there's going to be a lot more material used. You also have a lot of the aluminum body, even though the sprint cars, the carbon fiber bodies, I believe you can get a really nice one for like $6,500, I think, or $4,500, the really nice ones. The ones RIE or something like that out of Indy, but they have a warranty on them. If you ever break any of the panels with the carbon fiber bodies, you just send them in and they give you a new one. Regardless, we were just talking about Ricky's performance tonight. Will he do, as I just said, if he's getting into a very similar same situation as the SSI team, it's obviously a Longhorn, but is that one of the three? I'd have to do some research. Does anybody know the chassis? Once again, I've heard this in the late model world, not 100%. I'm not Kevin Rumley, but chassis engine shock combo is what you need to stay the same when switching teams. Chassis, engine, shocks. Does anybody know, off the top of y'all's head, the chassis, engine, shock combo on the 5S car and the SSI Motorsports car? That would be the difference. But if it's a big change, like say they were used to Penske or whatever, now they're on Bill Stein or whatever, that dip may be a little lower. Whereas if it's all three the same, it may just be a little bitty bump and he can win the damn race tonight. But I do think RTJ is driving with an attitude tonight. I think this Lincoln racetrack fits his driving style. And if there's anybody to dig out, even if it's a big dip, if there's anybody who can hit the NOS button to get through that dip real quick, this dip could be done by hot laps. There's only a few who could do this. Those few are, I think Kyle Larson can do that real quick, figure it out and go. I think, I think once again, the Logan Seaveys can figure it out and go real quick. I think you could put RTJ in that figure it out and go category as well. So it may not be that much, even if it is a big drop. I think it could potentially switch very quickly, and he could contend for the win tonight, but it will be difficult. I don't know. Longhorn, Vic Hill, Bilstein, what Pierce runs, not sure about RTJ. How did Pierce come up? I'd bet the 5S is identical to the 5B. Okay. So, see, there's a little bit of a difference here. I don't know. Longhorn, Vic Hill, Bilstein. And I know that when Sheppard went from I believe when he went from the Rocket House car to the Longhorn situation, there was some switches between him and I believe Davenport and what they were all doing. The chassis engine combo wasn't the same, and that's why the transition for Sheppard into the Longhorn took so long for him to get going like those guys, just simply because of that, one of those three not being the same. And I believe Sheppard changed to a different, I think he switched to a different shock brand after a bit. I'm not sure. I don't want to speak but I know it was different than the dominant Longhorn situation. Now, obviously, Bobby Pierce switched real quick and went to the front, and maybe that's why Dirt Dauber's referencing it here, is because that's what's very fast. That's what's very good. A lot of people are saying, I see the question there, who's going to the SSI car? A lot of people are saying Hudson O'Neal, man. A lot of people are saying Hudson O'Neal. I don't really want to even talk on that because that's just not right, personally. Like I said, I have the information on what happened. It don't have to do with T-shirts. I saw a lot of people say, is it coincidental that Ricky Thornton Jr. has his T-shirt trailer hitch messed with, and then all of a sudden he's fired the next day? I bet you this has to do with the T-shirt guy or the T-shirt sales or something, merchandise. Don't have to do with that. From my understanding, extremely small. So small that it seems like it was just potentially an excuse to put Hudson O'Neal in the car again. And I don't know why that may or may not be. I don't know why. But hey, they could have told us some whys. We wouldn't have to be sitting out here having discussions, talking about there wouldn't be all the plagiarism across the board if they would have just did some damage control. If they would have just gave the masses something to talk about. And that's what this show is supposed to be. Those going into the future, you want people to not talk and make shit up. Well, come out there and tell them some shit and mask it with some baby powder or something. But you got to give them something. You got to give them something, or they're going to do what they've done in the last day. They're going to go out here and make shit up and spread this rumor and that rumor and T-shirt hitches and all this shit. So we'll see. So tonight is a Castro FloRacing Tour race and dirt car race. I believe the Hell Tour is on the same night tonight. I'm not sure. Or are you talking about dirt car being at the track? The dirt car racing that's happening at Lincoln tonight is modifieds. So it is a co-sanction, I guess, if you want to look at it like that. But I don't know if FloRacing is technically a sanction. Is it? Yeah, dirt car is modified. So the dirt car modifieds are there, which is UMP, the predominant modified sanction of that area. So, who else is going to be impressive tonight? Obviously, like we said, we just found it out there as we were looking for the different stories and reading out the series of events. Obviously, you have Logan Seavey making his second race here tonight. We'll put it on the big screen. So this is going to be interesting, guys. This is going to be interesting. I think Logan Seavey's right there in the Ricky Thornton Jr., Kyle Larson category, personally. He was running third, had a shot to win in his debut, and got into a tanglement on a rubbered up one-lane racetrack, basically. But he is running tonight. This is another driver you want to keep an eye out on. So you got you got RTJ in the 5S car, and you got Logan Seavey driving the Chris Bragg 51. It's also a Longhorn chassis. I'm not sure if that makes a difference, but he adapted very quick. He's one of those guys, once again, dips and goes. But he is going to be racing tonight at Lincoln. And I believe he has at least midgets, because I know the midgets go there. I know he has midget experience. I think they did a non-wing race here at Lincoln. But this was the race he was originally going to debut. I do believe this is a rescheduled rain-out event here at Lincoln, because he was supposed to debut originally at this event earlier in the season, and it got rained out. But regardless, another driver going to be on the grounds, and he's also apparently going to be at Eagle this weekend. Is that this weekend, July 15th? No, that's actually next Monday. So obviously Lucas Oil going to 34 Raceway, and I forgot the Saturday, or well, it's like 34 Thursday. I'd have to go look up the schedule, but they're doing like Illinois, Iowa. I think they're going to Tri-City potentially is in there. But then Monday they're going to Eagle, and then Tuesday they're going to Shelby County, and that's all leading up to the Silver Dollar Nationals at Huset's, which is the fall or next week, weekend or whatever. So this kind of kicks off a little bit of a, I don't know why they didn't call it like a miniature Midwest Speed Week for the late model division, because it's going to be Monday at Eagle, Tuesday at Shelby County, and then I believe the Silver Dollar Nationals is 4 days, or even if it's not Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, it's still Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So it's pretty much a speed week next week for Lucas Oil racing there. But anyways, Logan Seavey is going to be in the building as well. I believe we had this on the Castro. This is the series of events for tonight. Hot laps are supposed to be at 6 p.m. So that is actually going to be coming up here in a little over 5 minutes. And this is once again your schedules of events: qualifying, heat races, late models, heat races, modifieds, in the same order: B mains, late models, B mains, modifieds, and then 20,000 to win 50 lap Castrol FloRacing Night in America. And then also the dirt car modified, 2,000 to win. That's a pretty good little show out. You know, dirt car is a little underrated. It is a little underrated. We actually got some content coming from our visit to the Skyline Speedway, which was a dirt car event. It was a day race though, so it was kind of rough for him. This race tonight, just for those who want to know, is 1,000 to start. It looks like it does incline all the way down to 13th. So this is actually a pretty good payout. 20 to win, 10 for second, 5 for third, 4 for 4, 3 for 5th, 6, 27, or 27.50, 7, 25, 8, 23, 9, 22, 10, 2,000. So that's not bad. Top 10's worth $2,000. 11th, 1,500, 12th, 1,250, and then 13th is 1,000, 14th, 150. This must be a typo. How would it go up from, 1,100, 1,050, 15th to the end. So inclination all the way down to the 15th spot. So not that bad, actually. Not that bad. But there is an entry fee, $100. The total purse for just the A main tonight in the late model, $68,650. Non-qualifier money means if you show up to the racetrack, you're getting $50. And that's where the sport is losing. That's Kenny Wallace's points being made right there in that non-qualifier money. $50. You got a $800,000 hauler, 2 or 3 motors in there, 2-3 cars. You know, you got basically, you know, $1.2 million worth of racing vehicles and equipment. And if you don't make the race, you lose $50 because you paid $100 to enter, and you're only getting $50. That is not good, guys. It's not good. Just saying. So, okay, so this is a weekly dirt car late model race with the big boys of the Castro series in town. Kind of, not really. Rescheduled from 5/9. So this was originally scheduled for May 9th. Fager is probably the best at Lincoln. We're going to find out tonight. But hot laps are getting ready. Let's see. I can check the little ticker here. Are we green yet on the it looks like they're doing their little pre-race show. Potentially. Or no. They got the dirt draft guys up there. Okay, they're doing like they are doing a pre-race show, but hot laps should be getting on the track. I know somebody mentioned weather. Where is Lincoln located? It's Lincoln Speedway. Is there a Lincoln, Illinois? We can look up the weather report real quick for those who are interested. Is there Lincoln, Illinois? If it's in Lincoln, Illinois, there is one. I mean, there is a chance for rain if it's in Lincoln, Illinois. I'm not sure. There's a slight chance, not a high one. Is Lincoln Speedway in Lincoln, Illinois? That's going to be the question. Let's see here. See, this is my problem. I think that tracks are where they're located. Lincoln Speedway. Let's see, not the PA version. That's the issue. A lot of people think PA. It is in Lincoln, Illinois. So the Lincoln, Illinois weather forecast for tonight is there's a 15% chance, but it's in the mid 80s, and by 9 o'clock it'll be 76 degrees, so not a lot of fluctuation in temperature. Partly cloudy to cloudy, but like I said, 15% chance of rain. Should be good to go. But with that cloudiness, it may stay a little more gripped up than you're used to seeing. So that may be the only real difference here tonight, is it may have a little more gum in the track than you're used to. In 2 minutes, all weather is 40 miles south of here. All right, there you go. So you're good. And like I said, the rest of the night, 15%. No chance really at all at 15%. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I guess that's going to do it for the show here. Thanks for tuning in. Once again, this just what I think. That's just what I think. But be sure to hit the membership button. And also, we're offering sponsorships to the channel. Send us a message on our Facebook or email us, longliveTheChaz@gmail.com, if you're interested in promoting events, getting things out there, businesses, products to push out there and everything. We'll try to keep the crazy, drunk, screaming, rambling psycho with the cowboy hat off of the screen as much as possible. But hey, it's fun. So if you support fun, talking crap, speculation, comedy, go ahead and send us a message. We'll get involved with your racetrack, your events you got coming up. We got one we're going to be promoting here in February, already lined up. I can't disclose the information because we're getting to an agreement, but it's pretty much going to be happening. They have a sprint car race we're going to be promoting here late in July, around the Knoxville Raceway, potentially. We have some things lined up there, but we'll find out when the time comes. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, FloRacing Night in America. Check it out. It is going to be interesting. Logan Seavey, if he wins, I won't be surprised. And then RTJ in the Sheppard Mobile. It'll be interesting, ladies and gentlemen. Anyways, be sure to subscribe, leave a comment, and we will catch you next time. Be sure to go to Long Live the Chaz, get a hat. Thanks. Ready to rip, ready to reach. Place my bets, hey, you never know when playing on hopes what you could achieve. Making the goal, peace with the soul, don't matter the bottle with what you believe. Cause if I'm taking it all in the calling, it's harder with nothing that's harder than free. Not giving up, though.